The soft electronic hum of the monitoring equipment was the only sound in the observatory control room until Dr. Elena Reyes burst through the door, breathing hard from her sprint across the Mauna Kea facility. "Tell me I didn't miss it," she demanded, setting her coffee mug down with enough force to splash liquid onto the polished console. Dr. Abernathy, the night shift supervisor, pointed silently to the main screen where a scrolling series of patterns pulsed with metronomic precision. "It started again 15 minutes ago. Same frequency, same pattern structure, but the intensity has doubled." Elena brushed a strand of dark hair from her face and leaned closer to the monitor. 3 weeks of intercepting fragmented signals had led to this moment. This wasn't random cosmic noise or the remnant echo of a distant stellar event. The mathematical precision was unmistakable. "This is intentional," she whispered, more to herself than her colleague. "These are language markers." "Language? You mean?" "Yes." Elena cut him off, eyes never leaving the screen. "Someone is talking to us." Within an hour, the observatory dome became a hive of activity. The president's science advisor joined via secure video link, along with representatives from space agencies across the globe. Elena, as Earth's foremost xenolinguist, took center stage despite her disheveled appearance and the dark circles under her eyes. The signal contains embedded mathematical constants followed by what appears to be a counting system, she explained, pulling up comparative charts on the secondary display. "But there's more. See these modulations. They're too precise, too structured to be anything but deliberate communication." "Can you decode it?" the president's advisor asked, his face tight with concern. Elena hesitated. "Partially. The mathematics gives us common ground, but the conceptual framework is alien." She emphasized the last word, watching as uncomfortable glances were exchanged across the room and on screens worldwide. For 3 days, Elena barely left her workstation. She slept in 2-hour increments on a cot hastily erected in the corner of the lab. Her team grew from 3 to 30 as linguists and mathematicians arrived from universities worldwide. The facility became a fortress as military personnel established a security perimeter, their presence a silent acknowledgement of what everyone inside already knew. This changed everything. On the 4th day, Elena decoded enough to confirm their worst fears. "It's a declaration," she announced to the emergency United Nations Security Council meeting, her voice steadied despite her exhaustion. "The signal comes from what translates roughly as the Galactic Conquests. They've designated Earth as strategically valuable territory, due to our position relative to something called the Void Expanse." The Secretary General leaned forward. "And what do they want?" "They're not asking for anything," Elena replied, the weight of her words falling heavy in the hushed chamber. "They're informing us that their fleet will arrive in approximately 6 months. Earth is to be incorporated into their empire." "And if we refuse?" asked the French representative. Elena pulled up the final decoded sequence. "That's the most disturbing part. When I input variations requesting clarification or suggesting alternatives, the response was identical each time." She displayed the translation on the main screen. "Asterisk compliance is expected. Resistance has never succeeded asterisk." "How certain are you about this translation?" The Secretary General's voice had lost its diplomatic polish. "The mathematical components are unambiguous," Elena said. "I'd stake my career on it." Commander Jackson Way, attending as military liaison, spoke for the first time. "Doctor, in your professional opinion, what can we infer about these beings from their communication style?" Elena considered carefully before answering. "They're technologically advanced, obviously. The precision of their signals suggests a highly ordered society. But most concerning is what they don't say. There's no attempt at cultural exchange, no curiosity about us. Their language contains no markers for negotiation or compromise." She looked around the room. "They speak with absolute certainty that we will submit." "Then they don't know humans very well," Commander Wei said quietly. Elena felt a chill run down her spine as she realized the truth in his words. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization wasn't a moment of wondrous exchange. It was a countdown to invasion. As the Security Council erupted into urgent debate, Elena turned back to her data. Something about the signal structure nagged at her. The Concordance's message radiated power and technological superiority, but it also revealed something else, something they might not have intended to show: arrogance. They expected compliance because they had never encountered failure, which meant they had never encountered anything like humans before. Commander Jackson Wee gripped the railing of the U.S. Defiance's observation deck, knuckles white as he stared at the horizon. The morning sky over the South China Sea had been clear blue minutes ago. Now a strange darkness spread across it like spilled ink. "Status report," he demanded into his comm unit. "Sir, all systems operational, but we're getting electromagnetic interference across all bands," his executive officer replied, voice tight with controlled panic. "Beijing is reporting the same phenomenon over the city." Jackson raised his binoculars. The darkness wasn't a storm cloud. It was a ship, impossibly vast, materializing above the world's most populous city. 12 miles of sleek, obsidian hull blocked the sun with terrible silence. No roar of engines, no atmospheric disturbance. One moment empty sky, the next moment, them. "All hands to battle stations," he ordered, knowing even as he spoke that the Defiance's most powerful weapons would be meaningless against visitors who could cross interstellar space, "and get me a direct line to command." The emergency United Nations Assembly convened 3 hours later. Jackson attended as military advisor, standing at the back of the chamber as world leaders argued fruitlessly about appropriate responses. A signal from the vessel had requested, or rather, informed Earth, that representatives would descend to the General Assembly building within the hour. "They're early," Elena whispered, appearing at his side. Dark circles under her eyes suggested she hadn't slept since decoding the original message. Jackson checked his watch. "By 17 minutes. What does that tell you? That they don't respect our time measurements, or that they're deliberately showing they don't need to follow our expectations?" She pushed a tablet into his hands. "Latest translation algorithms. I've been working on understanding their conceptual frameworks based on linguistic structures." Before he could respond, a murmur swept through the assembly. Through the grand windows, a crystalline transport descended from the mothership, its surface refracting sunlight into prismatic patterns. It settled with graceful precision onto the plaza outside. The Secretary General rose, face ashen. "We should greet them." The chamber doors opened without human assistance. The being that entered moved with fluid grace despite its imposing stature. Standing nearly 8 feet tall, Ambassador Zvex possessed an iridescent blue carapace and 4 upper limbs that tapered to delicate, 6-fingered hands. Most unsettling were its eyes, large, faceted orbs that glowed with internal energy. "We acknowledge your governing assembly." It spoke, its voice a harmonic blend of tones that seemed to bypass ears and resonate directly in the mind. "The Galactic Concordance extends recognition to Earth as acquisition territory 7-39-4. The translator's voice faltered, and Elena stepped forward, addressing the alien directly in a series of clicks and modulated tones. "Remarkable," Zvex responded in perfect English. "Your species shows unexpected linguistic adaptability." "We are full of surprises," Elena replied coolly, "including our desire to maintain independence." The alien's head tilted at an unnatural angle. This response has been cataloged in 87% of initial integration scenarios. It does not alter procedures. The Secretary General stepped forward. "Ambassador, we wish to understand what incorporation into your concordance would entail for our people. Your planetary resources will be harvested according to efficiency protocols. Your population will provide labor for Concordance war efforts against the coalition insurgency. Your compliance ensures survival. Resistance ensures replacement." A stunned silence fell over the assembly. Jackson stepped forward. "Why would beings as advanced as yourselves need human labor?" For the first time, the alien seemed momentarily discomfited. Your species possesses physical attributes the Concordance finds useful. Our evolution prioritized mental and technological advancement. Your bodies can withstand environments and stresses that would terminate our finest warriors. You need us because we're stronger than you, Jackson translated bluntly. Zivex's eyes flared brighter. You are technologically inferior by 9 development stages. Your military capabilities cannot harm our vessels. Your numerical advantage is irrelevant against our dominance. Yet you need our bodies to fight your wars, Alina interjected. The alien turned toward the exit. You have 3 planetary rotations to formalize your surrender, after which we begin acquisition with or without cooperation. As the doors closed behind the ambassador, the chamber erupted into panicked debate. Jackson caught Alina's eye across the room. Did you see it? She mouthed silently. He nodded. Beneath the alien's contempt and technological superiority lay something unexpected, biological vulnerability. And that meant humanity had a chance. Slim, desperate, but real. Try it again, Alina instructed, adjusting the sensors attached to the technician's temples. This time, focus on determination. Not anger, not fear, just pure resolve. In the secure underground facility beneath the Rocky Mountains, a team of scientists watched as the captured piece of Concordance technology responded to the technician's thoughts. The sleek metallic device hummed softly, its surface glowing with faint blue energy. Then, as the technician's expression hardened with concentration, the glow fluctuated wildly before dimming entirely. Interesting, Alina noted, reviewing the data streaming across her tablet. Their tech interfaces perfectly with their psychology, but seems to react negatively to certain human emotional states. Commander Wei examined the device from behind protective glass. Weaponizing emotions wasn't on my tactical planning board, he said with grim humor. But I'll take whatever advantage we can get. The 72 hours granted by the Concordance had expired a week ago. Their response to humanity's refusal was swift but strangely measured. Precision strikes against military installations rather than the wholesale destruction many had feared. Now, alien outposts were being established in temperate regions around the globe, while their ships maintained an ominous presence over major cities. Their restraint tells us something, Jackson observed as Alina joined him in the command center. Wall-sized displays showed satellite imagery of Concordance bases. They genuinely need humans alive and Earth relatively intact. Which buys us time, Alina agreed, but not much. Our analysis of their communication patterns suggests they're following standard protocols for what they call resistant integration. They'd done this before. Jackson studied the global deployment map. But have they ever faced humans before? The question hung in the air as the facility's blast doors parted, admitting a diverse group of 20 individuals. They didn't look like soldiers, at least not conventional ones. A wiry woman with weather-beaten skin stood beside a man whose muscular frame suggested immense physical power. Others displayed the lean physiques of endurance athletes or the sturdy builds of those who worked in extreme environments. Dr. Reyes, meet Task Force Endurance, Jackson said. Marathon runners, deep-sea divers, high-altitude climbers, Arctic explorers, desert survival specialists. Humans who routinely accomplish what most would consider impossible. Alina understood immediately. You're building a team based on our physical advantages. Jackson nodded. Satellite imagery shows the Concordance avoiding extreme environments, deserts, mountains, polar regions, deep forests. They're establishing climate-controlled habitats and rely heavily on their technology. He gestured to the assembled specialists. If we can't match their weapons, we'll use what they don't have. In the adjacent laboratory, Alina's research team had made another critical discovery. A neurologist displayed brain scans taken during alien communication attempts. Their psionic abilities rely on specific wave patterns, she explained, pointing to the oscillating display. But look what happens when we overlay human brainwave patterns during states of intense focus and determination. The overlapping patterns created visual interference on the screen, areas of chaotic disruption where the two systems conflicted. "You're saying human determination literally jams their signals?" Elena asked. "Not just signals. Their entire command structure seems built on psionic consensus. The right kind of human brain activity creates noise in their system." Elena remembered Zvex's momentary discomfort during the UN meeting. Not just physical vulnerability, but psychological vulnerability too. Within days, the facility transformed into humanity's most unusual defense center. Engineers worked to develop amplification devices that could broadcast disruptive human brainwave patterns. Training programs established protocols for operating in environments hostile to concordance physiology. Communications experts developed analog methods that couldn't be intercepted by alien technology. "We're going low-tech against the most advanced species in the galaxy," Jackson told his assembled team. "They expect us to try matching their technology and failing. They don't expect us to turn our primitive nature into our greatest weapon." Elena watched as the diverse group of specialists began collaborating, their differences becoming strengths rather than divisions. The Concordance had unified humanity in ways nothing else could have. "They studied our weapons, our satellites, our digital networks," she observed. "But they never bothered to study our history. How humans have always overcome superior forces through adaptation and sheer stubborn will." Jackson's expression hardened with resolve. That was their first mistake. Lieutenant Amara Okafor felt the icy Atlantic water against her face as she surfaced, the specialized wetsuit insulating her core, while allowing just enough sensation to maintain awareness of her surroundings. Around her, 11 other heads broke the water's surface in perfect synchronization, their breath barely visible in the pre-dawn air. Above them loomed the unmistakable silhouette of a Concordance patrol vessel, hovering 50 feet above the ocean. Its sleek hull reflected the faint moonlight, creating rippling patterns on the water below. Unlike human aircraft, it made no sound, no engines, no rotors, nothing to betray its presence except its shadow. Amara checked the small device strapped to her wrist. The temperature gauge read -2 degrees Celsius, water cold enough to kill an unprotected human in minutes. Her team's modified wetsuits would provide 3 hours of exposure protection, though they wouldn't need nearly that long. "Uplinks active," her second-in-command whispered through the communication system integrated into their rebreathers. "No detection signals. Their sensors are designed to monitor ocean surfaces." Amara gave the hand signal. 12 magnetic grappling devices shot upward, attaching to the alien vessel's underbelly with soft, pneumatic thuds rather than metallic clangs. The humans began their ascent, climbing the carbon fiber cords with practiced efficiency. "Remember, this isn't about destruction," Amara reminded her team as they reached the hull. "This is about information." The Concordance had conquered dozens of worlds, but intelligence suggested they'd never faced an amphibious assault. Their ships were designed to repel attacks from other vessels or land-based weapons, not 12 humans rising from the depths like ghosts. The hull-breaching tool, developed by studying fragments of Concordance materials, created a perfect circle in the metal, which Amara's engineer carefully removed. One by one, they entered the vessel, water dripping from their suits onto the immaculate interior floor. The ship's corridors were tall and wide, designed for the larger Concordance physiology. More importantly, they were empty. The alien crew, confident in their technological superiority, had never imagined the need for internal security protocols. "Environmental systems," Amara whispered, following the schematics memorized during their briefing. 3 right turns and 2 left brought them to a humming chamber filled with crystalline structures. "Interesting," murmured Chief Petty Officer Dawson, the team's technical specialist. He ran a handheld scanner over the pulsing crystals. "These aren't mechanical components. They're biological. The ship maintains precise temperature, humidity, and atmospheric composition." Amara studied the readouts on her own device. Within extremely narrow parameters, much narrower than what humans can tolerate. The realization solidified their mission's purpose. They weren't there to destroy the ship but to understand the enemy's weaknesses. "Make the adjustments," she ordered. "Subtle ones, just as planned. Nothing that triggers immediate alarms." Dawson's fingers moved with surgical precision over the control interfaces. He increased humidity by 12%, decreased temperature by 3 degrees, and introduced a trace amount of carbon dioxide into the circulation system. "Changes implementing gradually," he confirmed. "Environmental drift will seem natural, not sabotage." The team retreated to their entry point, stopping only to place tiny transmitters in key locations throughout the vessel. These would send encrypted data bursts to satellites at irregular intervals, too brief for concordance systems to pinpoint. As they prepared to exit, alarms suddenly blared. Amara's heart raced until she realized the alerts weren't about intruders. They were environmental warnings. Through observation ports, they watched as Concordance crew members began moving erratically, their normally fluid motions becoming jerky and uncoordinated. Several aliens abandoned their posts, heading toward what intelligence identified as emergency respiration chambers. "Their exoskeletons," Dawson whispered in awe. "They're hardening in response to the environmental changes. They can't function." Within 20 minutes, the entire Concordance crew had evacuated to emergency lifeboats, leaving the patrol vessel effectively abandoned. What they considered a catastrophic environmental failure was merely uncomfortable by human standards. Back at command headquarters, Alina and Jackson reviewed the mission data with growing excitement. They abandoned a state-of-the-art military vessel because the air got a bit chilly and damp. Jackson couldn't hide his amazement. "Their physiological constraints are even more severe than we theorized," Alina nodded. "They sacrificed physical adaptability for technological advancement to an extreme degree." On the wall display, a live feed showed Amara's team completing their exfiltration, disappearing beneath the dark Atlantic waters as silently as they had emerged. "First blood," Jackson said quietly, "and we didn't even have to fire a shot." Elena pressed her body against the crumbling concrete wall, holding her breath as the Concordance search team passed less than 20 feet away. Their tall, elegant frames moved with unsettling grace through the ruins of what had once been downtown Seoul. The scanner one carried emitted a soft blue pulse that swept over the debris, searching for energy signatures or electronic communications. But Alina carried nothing electronic. The folded paper map in her pocket and the charcoal markers she used to record Concordance patrol patterns were invisible to their advanced technology. Sometimes the oldest methods were the most effective. When the patrol moved out of sight, she slipped through the shadows toward the designated meeting point. 3 weeks into the occupation, the resistance had established a rhythm. No digital communications, no predictable patterns, no direct confrontations, just constant, coordinated harassment operations that forced the Concordance to spread thinner and expend more resources with each passing day. "Report," she whispered as she entered the abandoned subway maintenance tunnel where tonight's cell had gathered. 12 faces turned toward her. Engineers, former military, ordinary citizens united by extraordinary resolve. "Northern mining operation is operating at 40% capacity," a former geological surveyor reported. The landslides weren't detected as sabotage. "Atmospheric processors in sectors 3 and 8 are showing increased filtration demands," added a woman who had once designed air purification systems. "They're burning through components twice as fast as their supply chain can replace them." Elena nodded, updating her hand-drawn map with the new information. The Concordance's advanced technology required precise calibration and optimal operating conditions, both of which were becoming increasingly difficult to maintain on a planet where the local population knew every environmental quirk and geographical advantage. 500 miles away, Commander Jackson Wei coordinated global operations from within his mobile command center, a converted cargo truck that relocated daily. The vehicle's interior was a study in minimalist efficiency, powered by hydrogen cells that left no thermal signature for concordance sensors to detect. "Amara's team has confirmed the pattern," his communications officer reported. The Concordance is establishing 23 new outposts, all in temperate zones with minimal environmental fluctuations. Jackson examined the global map where resistance cells had added new Concordance positions. They're avoiding extreme environments entirely now. No bases above 8,000 feet elevation, none in desert regions, none in the polar latitudes. Because they can't function there, his strategic advisor concluded. Their biological limitations are dictating their military deployment. Jackson traced a finger along mountain ranges and harsh desert regions, which gives us sanctuaries they can't effectively monitor or control. He tapped a series of points along the map. Expand our training facilities in these locations. If they can't come to us, we'll create havens where we can prepare without interference. In the Amazon rainforest, a Concordance survey team moved cautiously through the dense undergrowth, their environmental suits struggling to maintain optimal conditions in the oppressive humidity. Their mission, establish a monitoring post at the convergence of 3 river systems, was 12 days behind schedule. Atmospheric moisture exceeding suit compensation parameters. The team leader reported back to their base. Request extraction and reassignment of mission to drone units. What the alien commander couldn't see were the 24 indigenous guides and special forces operators watching from the canopy above, documenting every limitation, every equipment failure, every sign of biological distress the aliens exhibited. This information would join the growing database of Concordance vulnerabilities. Beneath the Antarctic ice shelf, researchers converted abandoned scientific outposts into training facilities where resistance fighters learned to operate in conditions that would kill a Concordance soldier in minutes. Similar operations took root in the Himalayas, the Sahara, and deep ocean research stations, environments the aliens avoided due to their physiological constraints. As the 3rd month of occupation began, the Concordance High Command faced an unprecedented situation. Their sophisticated battle algorithms predicted human resistance would crumble within weeks when faced with overwhelming technological superiority. Instead, efficiency ratings at resource extraction sites plummeted. Equipment failures increased exponentially. Outposts reported environmental sabotage that shouldn't have been possible for a technologically inferior species. They persist beyond all rational analysis, a Concordance strategic officer reported to Supreme Commander Vex Ultima. They endure conditions that would terminate our personnel. They continue fighting long after our models predict surrender is statistically inevitable. Vex Ultima's faceted eyes narrowed. Their resistance is irrational, inefficient, doomed to failure. And yet, the officer replied, they persist. Concordance Commander Zvex stared at the holographic display, the data streams confirming what 6 months of occupation had made increasingly clear. Failure was occurring on an unprecedented scale. The mining operations in Earth's resource-rich regions operated at barely 30% efficiency. Supply chains fragmented under constant disruption. 7 outposts had gone completely silent in the past week alone. Send the report, Zvex instructed the communications officer. Unaltered. The officer's iridescent carapace shifted colors in a pattern denoting concern. A high command has rejected 3 consecutive reports for excessive pessimism. Then this will be the 4th, Zvex replied. Reality does not improve when ignored. The holographic display shifted to show global Concordance deployments. Red indicators, denoting installations operating below minimum acceptable parameters, dominated the projection. The humans had never won a direct military engagement. They didn't need to. Instead, they eroded Concordance operations through endless minor actions, each insignificant alone but devastating in aggregate. Most concerning was High Command's response. Instead of committing additional resources, they demanded results with existing assets, unwilling to acknowledge that this routine acquisition had become anything but routine. 12,000 miles away, Alina stood in the captured alien research facility beneath Mount Everest. At 29,000 feet, the thin air and low pressure created an environment that Concordance physiology simply couldn't tolerate. Even in their environmental suits, aliens could only function here for minutes before their systems began failing. For the humans who had established this base, the conditions were harsh but manageable. "It's worse than we thought," Elena told Jackson over their secure communication system, a network of physical fiber optic lines that couldn't be intercepted by concordance sensors. Their genetic data shows critical deterioration across 27 successive generations. She transmitted images of what the research team had discovered, genetic records dating back thousands of years, showing a species that had engineered themselves toward mental and technological advancement at the expense of physical resilience. "They sacrificed adaptability for specialization," she explained. "Each generation more advanced intellectually but more physically constrained. They compensated with better environmental control technology, but the underlying biology became increasingly fragile." Jackson's voice carried a mixture of wonder and concern. "They're evolutionary dead-ending themselves." "Exactly. And it explains why they need humans. We're everything they're not. Adaptable, physically resilient, capable of functioning in variable conditions." The conversation paused as Elena's team continued extracting data from the alien systems. One researcher called her over, excitement breaking through her professional demeanor. "You need to see this," she said, highlighting a section of alien text. "It's comprehensive data on something called the Stellar Coalition." Elena scanned the information, her eyes widening. "The Concordance isn't an empire. It's one side of a war. The Coalition is an alliance of species fighting against Concordance expansion." The data revealed a conflict spanning centuries across dozens of star systems. The Concordance, despite its technological superiority, fought a desperate war of resources against a diverse alliance of species that valued adaptation over uniformity. Across the planet, Lieutenant Amara Okafor's legendary strike team emerged from the depths aboard their converted nuclear submarine. For 3 months, they had operated completely off the Concordance grid, appearing without warning to strike critical installations before disappearing beneath the waves. Today's mission was different. Using information gathered from multiple raids, they had identified a Concordance communication relay positioned in the mid-Atlantic, a critical node in their interstellar network. "This isn't about sabotage," Amara instructed her team as they prepared their equipment. "This is about making first contact of our own." Hours later, the team infiltrated the floating platform. Instead of destroying the communication array, they reconfigured it, using Elena's research to bypass Concordance encryption protocols. The message they transmitted into deep space was brief but precisely targeted at Coalition territory. "We fight the same enemy. Humans offer unique advantages. Proposal. Alliance." When the transmission completed, they vanished into the ocean depths, leaving no evidence of their presence except the message now traveling between the stars. At Concordance High Command, Supreme Commander Vex Ultima received Z-Vex's latest report with growing agitation. The options narrowed with each passing day. The planet's resources justified the effort to secure it, but the cost was becoming untenable. "The final option must be considered," an advisor suggested. "Planet cleansing followed by automated resource extraction." Vex Ultima's faceted eyes shifted color. "Destruction of viable biological assets contradicts acquisition protocols. Continued resistance contradicts all precedent," the advisor countered. "These humans defy rational analysis." For the first time in 10,000 years of Concordance expansion, Supreme Command faced a species that refused to follow the established patterns of conquest and submission. Somewhere in Vex Ultima's highly evolved consciousness, an unfamiliar sensation took root: doubt. The Coalition scout ship materialized in Earth's orbit, with none of the dramatic flair that had accompanied the Concordance's arrival. One moment empty space, the next a vessel unlike anything humans had seen before, its organic curves and translucent hull sections suggesting an entirely different approach to space travel. Jackson studied the vessel through the Antarctic base's long-range optical systems. No weapons ports visible. Either they're incredibly well hidden or they prioritize different technologies. Elena finished his thought. The Concordance evolved toward overwhelming force. Perhaps the Coalition took another path. The Coalition's response to humanity's message had been swift. A single ship arriving just 2 weeks after Amara's team had sent their interstellar invitation. Now, Earth's future hinged on whether these potential allies saw value in humanity's resistance. The emissary who transported down to the secure meeting location moved with fluid grace that made even the most accomplished human athletes appear clumsy by comparison. Kelteros resembled a tall, thin humanoid with reflective skin that shifted colors with subtle emotional nuances, currently displaying a cautious blue-green pattern. "We received your transmission with considerable surprise," the alien spoke, its voice melodic and perfectly understandable. Few species resist concordance integration effectively. Fewer still manage to establish communication during occupation. Elena stepped forward as Earth's lead diplomat. "We've learned much about the concordance in a short time. Their weaknesses are becoming apparent." Indeed, Kelteros' skin rippled with a pattern suggesting respectful interest. "Our analysts reviewed your planet's transmissions during approach. Your species lacks our technological advancement, but demonstrates qualities we had considered theoretical." The Coalition representative observed the assembled human team with analytical curiosity. Unlike the Concordance's dismissive arrogance, Kelteros studied humanity as equals worthy of genuine consideration. Jackson arranged a demonstration. Video footage showed Special Forces teams operating in environments ranging from blistering deserts to Arctic conditions. A veteran explained how he had survived 3 weeks behind enemy lines with minimal supplies. Elena's research team demonstrated their discovery of how human emotional states disrupted concordance psionic networks. "Your adaptability exceeds anything in our records," Kelteros acknowledged, skin shifting to an impressed violet hue. The concordance anticipated quick submission based on technological disparity. They never considered biological advantages that technology cannot replicate. "We need weapons to match theirs," Jackson stated plainly. "You need soldiers who can endure what your people cannot. An alliance benefits both our species." Before Kelteros could respond, an alert sounded. A damaged concordance vessel had entered Earth's atmosphere under unusual protocols, broadcasting neither attack signals nor standard concordance identification. A trap? Jackson wondered aloud. "Unlikely," Kelteros replied, skin shifting to analytical yellow. "The damage pattern suggests internal conflict, not combat with external forces." The vessel landed near the meeting site under temporary truce protocols. Its commander, a concordance officer identifying as Subdirector Ixmelin, emerged with a small contingent. Their carapaces showed subtle color variations from the standard concordance forces, genetic markers of a distinct faction. "We request asylum," Ixmelin announced, the concept clearly unfamiliar and uncomfortable. Elements within concordance ranks observe human resistance with revaluation. Elena exchanged glances with Jackson. "You're defecting." "A concept without precedent in concordance history," Ixmelin confirmed. "Yet evidence compels reconsideration of established protocols. Supreme Command has authorized deployment of planetary cleansing weapons despite resource assessment valuations." The implications were immediate and dire. Despite Earth's strategic value, the Concordance had grown desperate enough to consider destroying the planet rather than continuing a costly occupation. "They'll sacrifice Earth's resources just to eliminate us?" Elena asked. "Your species presents an existential question," Ixmelin explained. "If humans can resist successfully with inferior technology, other species may attempt similar resistance. The statistical models suggest cascading rebellion scenarios." Kelteros' skin flashed with urgent patterns. Planetary cleansing weapons would render Earth uninhabitable for generations. What followed was the most unusual strategic council in human history. Coalition tacticians with their advanced defensive capabilities, concordance defectors with intimate knowledge of enemy systems, and human resistance leaders with their unparalleled adaptability. "The concordance expects compliance or destruction," Jackson observed. They'd never encountered a third option: defeat at the hands of a species they considered primitive. For the first time since the invasion began, a comprehensive counteroffensive took shape. Coalition technology would neutralize Concordance weapons superiority. Defector intelligence would provide access to command systems. Human determination would provide the fighting spirit that neither alien species fully understood, but both had come to respect. As the council concluded, Kel Turos approached Alina privately. "There is something you should understand," the alien said, skin patterns conveying solemn respect. "In 20,000 cycles, no species has accomplished what humans have in mere months. You have changed the equation of galactic power through nothing but stubborn refusal to accept defeat." Alina smiled. "We call it grit." "We have no equivalent term," Kel Turos admitted. "Perhaps that is why you succeed where others failed." The final assault began not with thunderous explosions, but with millions of whispers. Alina's voice echoed through the global communication network, synchronizing resistance cells worldwide. "Commence Operation Endurance. All units activate." Across 6 continents, humans initiated the carefully choreographed counteroffensive. Unlike the Concordance's precision strikes or the Coalition's advanced technology, humanity's weapon was simpler and more profound. A worldwide broadcast of specifically modulated brainwave patterns harvested from thousands of volunteers experiencing the same emotional state: determined defiance. In orbit, Coalition ships emerged from stealth configurations to engage the Concordance fleet. Their organic vessels moved with impossible agility, absorbing energy weapons while deploying countermeasures developed through centuries of conflict. This wasn't the main attack, merely a diversion. The true assault began with Lieutenant Amara Okafor's infiltration team. Using environmental suits designed by Coalition engineers combined with Concordance schematics provided by the defectors, they approached the command vessel through maintenance channels too narrow for the larger aliens to patrol effectively. Thermal regulation systems offline, Amara reported as her team sabotaged critical infrastructure. Life support fluctuating in command sectors. Throughout the massive flagship, Concordance crew members experienced something unprecedented. Their psionic communication network dissolving into chaos as Alina's global broadcast created interference patterns that multiplied with each relay. Orders became garbled. Coordination collapsed. The collective consciousness that made the Concordance so formidable fragmented into isolated individuals. On Earth, Jackson coordinated synchronized uprisings, targeting every Concordance installation simultaneously, not through direct assaults, but through environmental manipulation, changing atmospheric compositions, adjusting temperature gradients, introducing harmless but disorienting particulates into ventilation systems. Conditioned humans could easily withstand became debilitating to Concordance physiology. Inside the massive flagship, Supreme Commander Vex Ultima experienced something unprecedented in 10,000 years of Concordance dominance: uncertainty. Surrounded by failing systems and cut off from the collective intelligence network, the Supreme Commander faced the unthinkable: the prospect of defeat at the hands of a technologically inferior species. The command center doors opened to admit 3 figures: Alina, her device broadcasting disruptive patterns; Jackson, coordinating the global offensive through a Coalition communication unit; and Amara, whose team had fought through the ship's deteriorating security systems. "Impossible," Vex Ultima insisted, faceted eyes flaring with indignation. "We calculated every possibility." "That was your mistake," Alina replied calmly. "You calculated what was probable, not what was possible." The terms of surrender were unprecedented in galactic history. Earth would not be conquered, nor would the Concordance be destroyed. Instead, a new paradigm emerged, one that redefined the very concept of advancement. Technological development alone no longer determined civilization status, Alina explained at the formal treaty signing 3 weeks later. Representatives from 27 coalition species and the reformed Concordance factions attended the ceremony in the restored United Nations chamber. Adaptability, resilience, and cooperative potential must be equally valued. Earth joined the interstellar community not as a conquered resource, but as a full member with unique contributions. The treaty established protections for developing worlds and recognized the value of biological diversity alongside technological achievement. As Reconstruction began, alien diplomats arrived on Earth to study the quality their advanced civilizations had engineered out of existence. The stubborn, illogical, magnificent human capacity to face overwhelming odds with nothing but grit and somehow prevail. Commander Jackson Wei, now Earth's first ambassador to the Galactic Council, stood beside Alina as they watched the Coalition and Concordance representatives attempt to understand human sports, particularly marathon running. "They still don't quite get it," he observed as the aliens expressed bewilderment at humans voluntarily enduring physical strain for no immediate practical benefit. Alina smiled. "They're learning. And so are we." Across the stars, the message spread through civilizations far more advanced than humanity. Technological superiority guaranteed nothing against a species that refused to accept defeat, that endured when logic dictated surrender, that found strength in their very limitations. Underestimate humans at your peril.